Well, good afternoon, listeners. You're listening to Lament of Hope podcast, and I'm your host, Danielle Richardson. And today I'm speaking with Jon Huertas. He's been in several television series as well as films. He's actually done some directing as well. One of my favorite roles that he plays is Esposito in Castle, which is a little older now, in the sense of films. Like This Is Us would be a more recent television series he's been in. But I just always loved his character, and I thought the series just had a lot of good things to say about living life and humanity and complex problems. And anyway, so that's where I was introduced to his acting, and I wanted to reach out to him and connect, and we were able to do that. I had a storm, so my internet shut down. His internet just shut down, so we're hoping, praying that this stays stable as we talk for at least the next 45 minutes. But
Yeah,
John, thank
hopefully.
you. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's a gift to have you.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me. It's kind of cool to talk to someone who went to high school close to where I went to high school.
Yeah, I was gonna, did you like going to high school in Winchester? Well, first of all, I want to ask you, go back a second. Did you ever, did you come into Loudoun County? And I wondered if you ever had thoughts about Loudoun County, because every time I've left Loudoun County, I feel like I'm in a different world. Loudoun County is such a bubble. And then, did you like growing up in Virginia?
I did. I've been to Loudoun County. Yeah, absolutely. I think our school played a lot of teams in Loudoun County. I think the school that was featured in Remember the Titans, the film, wasn't that a school in
Yes.
Loudoun County? Yeah, we played them, beat them. But so I spent some time in Loudoun County, and also to drive to Washington D.C., go through Loudoun County from Winchester, where I went to high school. And I used to work at Dulles International Airport,
Yeah.
which is basically, Loudoun County. Isn't Reston and Herndon in Loudoun County, or just outside of Loudoun County? They're in Loudoun County, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been there. I was there recently. A friend of mine lives there, so I was visiting with him, having lunch. Um, when I was staying in DC. But yeah, I mean, Virginia was okay to grow up in. It's very green. It's, got mountains and rivers and creeks and streams that are, as when you're a teenager, and if you like to explore that kind of stuff, which I do, it's a never-ending wonderland or something like that. So I did love that about Virginia. There were other things about Virginia that I didn't care for, but I'm sure you find that in every state. You're gonna find things you like and things you don't like in every state. So yeah, I had a great time there learning how to fish, how to camp and do all those kinds of things.
What makes you like nature? Because, I mean, even before we started the interview, you mentioned how much you love the redwoods. What is it that draws you to nature specifically?
Well, I think it was always a way to escape any kind of you know trauma, if you will. Like, if there's any trauma in my life, whether it's childhood trauma, and trauma doesn't, I don't mean trauma as a bad word. It is, trauma can be a bad thing, obviously, but there's levels of trauma.
Sure.
There's deep, uh, damaging trauma, and there's the trauma of, a bully trying to bully you one day.
Yeah.
And it's something that going into the woods or on a deep hike. I did this thing called wilderness meditation, which is something I learned later in life that I've been doing since I was a kid. Like to go into the wilderness where I'm away from people, away from concrete, asphalt, brick. It's just surrounded by nature and the sounds of nature, and allows me to like get inside myself and figure things out. Um, uh, study myself from the inside out, heal from trauma, make plans, set goals. So it's because meditation for me is not turning my brain off. meditation for me is allowing my brain to function and do its job and do its work without outside distractions and outside influences, and just having, I think, connecting with nature in that way. That's what I have done that since I was a kid. I just love to disappear into the wilderness, whatever it is, whether it's out here in California, in the desert, in the redwoods, in the forests around my house, a lot of ponderosa pines around my house up in Northern California, um, and in Virginia, in the mountains, the Appalachian Mountains, Shenandoah Valley. Like, there's just so many places to go there to find myself, I guess.
I don't know if it's a generation thing, but I really struggle with silence. Like, I don't, it's not that silence is bad, but I don't find it a comforting thing. I always like feel like I need to have something around or someone talking or noise in the background because it was interesting when we were talking about meditation earlier because I've interviewed so many people who say when they meditate, they turn their brain off. And I didn't understand. I've really respected it, but I don't understand really what that means because I've never really been able to experience that too much. But I wanted to ask you, like, have you just always been able and used to and enjoy silence and your brain when you said you're thinking about things and forming goals and thinking about your life, that doesn't cause any sort of anxiety for you? That's more restful than it is.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Definitely not anxiety. If I have anxiety, it heals that or takes it away. I love being in silence. It's funny, like with people in my life that I call them they aren't comfortable in silence, meaning that I can sit in a room next to somebody, sit in a car next to somebody or whatever, and we don't have to talk. We can, you know, just be taking in what we're seeing if we're driving or thinking about something, contemplating something, if we're watching something. I don't have to talk. I'm very cool to not talk. But some people just can't do that. They're not comfortable in the silence. And they have to just talk. And which is, that's their thing. It's different from my thing. Uh, and it just shows the difference between, human beings, the differences that we have, that we share is, some people are this way, some people are that way, right? So for me, I'm that way. I don't have to have noise. I don't have to have music on. Literally yesterday I was driving. I did like about a 3.5 hour road trip yesterday. And I didn't even listen to podcast, book, or music for a lot of the drive. I
Wow.
just was sitting in silence. And it was somewhat meditative. Um, but sometimes I knock out a whole book, on one of my road trips, or I listen to podcasts or I listen to music. Uh, but yeah, it's for me, I like silence. It allows me to know myself.
Well, I was gonna ask, why do you think it's important? Because obviously I know, you do want to respect what other people do and stuff, but obviously for you it is an important thing. Why do you think it's important to be okay with silence?
For me, it's to know yourself. The only way you can know yourself is to you know find yourself, get inside of yourself. And I think noise, whether it's conversation, music, sirens, the sound of traffic, the grumbling of just you know life, that can, in my opinion, it's always a way to distract you away from you know talking to yourself. And you don't have to talk to yourself out loud, or you can. Sometimes I do. But I think getting to know yourself is very important. Um, Understanding, you know, you have to understand whether or not you have empathy. You have to understand whether or not you're moving towards any goals that you've set. You have to understand how you feel about certain things, what your principles are. Uh, and I think if there, to me, there's, I think mental health is very important for us as a society. But it's not introduced to us usually by our parents at a young age, like, say, dental health
Yeah.
or ocular health or physical health. Our parents start taking us to the doctor, to the eye doctor, to the ear doctor when we're kids. But nobody takes us to the brain doctor, right?
Yeah.
And the brain is the most important organ in your body. When you are determined dead, it's usually they say he's brain dead and he's not coming back from this. Your heart can stop, but they can restart it. The brain can't be restarted normally. So
Hmm.
the brain is the most important organ in your body, but we don't give it as much attention as we do the body or the ears or the eyes or the teeth. And so
Yeah.
for me, living in silence for a little bit helps me check on my own brain.
Hmm.
That makes sense.
No, it
Uh,
it does. I was gonna ask you though, that must be hard being an actor and doing that because acting is, I mean, yes, it's introspective in a way, but you are surrounded by so much noise as an actor, and like there's all these things you got to do, and I would feel like there's these decisions you have to make. Does that ever disrupt that at all?
I mean, I think when you're an actor, you know, it's up to you. You choose how much noise is around you, unless you're on set working. When you're on set working, everybody's working, and for the most part, um, and if you do your work before, say, if you're on, let's say you're on set, before the camera rolls, if you do your work when the camera actually rolls, there is a measure of silence there. The only other thing you're going to hear, if you're good at what you do, you're going to hear the other character or characters in the scene. But you're immersing yourself into this scene if you're doing it the right way, putting up a fourth wall so you don't even see or feel the crew. If you're on stage, you don't see or feel the audience if you can effectively put up a fourth wall, and now you're just present with the other actors in the scene. And I think the only way you can do that is to know how to effectively kind of live in silence. I think for me, when I get ready for a role, or my scenes for a project, if it's TV or film or if it's stage, like I am in silence working on my character. I've got to be in silence while I'm working on my character. Well, figuring out my character's objectives or wants, what obstacles the character's facing in the story. How is he going to overcome these obstacles? Also based on whatever the other actors bring to the scene. I got to work all that out on my own before the cameras roll, before I step on stage. So then again, now I'm surrounding myself with silence, and I think most actors do that to some extent. When they work on their characters.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, there are the actors who phone it in and maybe they don't do any work at all, but those are rare. I think most actors are pretty dedicated to some level of the craft.
Well, I guess I wondered in the sense of also contentment because with acting, and when I've talked to a lot of, it's hard for me because you go like A-list actor, B-list actor, and what you mean by that is usually fame. But when you say that, it makes it seem like someone else is like lesser than an actor or whatever. And I've found that a lot of B-list actors seem to be actually better at acting than some A-list actors. But anyway, I've talked to several actors who aren't as famous as like some big names, and they have struggled with contentment of not getting to that bar where they can be able to choose and be very picky about what they do, but also want to have more creative control over their character, over the film, whatever it is they're doing. And because they don't have that power, they can't. And so they are kind of limited in a sense. And that's frustrating to them. And also, there's just also this, there's success and how you measure it. And so if you don't get to that bar, then maybe you're not as a successful actor in your mind as you could be. And I
Hmm.
wondered for you, like, did you wrestle with that for a while, or have you come to a place where you're like, I'm proud of the work I've done and I don't need to get to this certain bar before I feel like I've reached an acting achievement.
I think for me, all I wanted to do is work as an actor, and for me, working as an actor, I'll give you an example. The first year that I moved to Los Angeles to uh, try my hand at acting, and moving to Los Angeles meant that I was diving more headfirst into TV and film than theater, right? So my very first audition, I was as excited about that audition that day when I found out I had it for a TV show that had been on, like it was the original 90210. I was as excited about that audition as I have been for every job I've had since, even This Is Us with Castle or Generation Kill or any movies or whatever. Because it meant what I had chosen to do was real. So I don't just think that uh, working on a set, booking a job and working on the set, or booking a play, going on tour, or off Broadway, Broadway, regional theater, whatever it is. That's work, but also auditioning, getting your materials together, your reel, your headshots, all the things is working. Being in a class is working. Doing small theater is working, and that's I think success was going to be to me was like working. And so that's why that first audition was so amazing to me. It was like, oh my God, I'm actually doing it. Even though I don't have the job yet, I'm doing what other actors do. And for me, yes, there were a couple of periods in my life, I think a long time ago at this point, like, many years ago now, where I was like, oh man, I should be, and it was also the influence of other people around me too. What voices, it's probably why I got so used to being in silence. I didn't want to hear all these other voices trying to influence me in a negative way,
Yeah.
telling me you should be this guy. But there was a point where I thought, yeah, I should be, you know, I should have this type of career. Why has that guy got a better job that I've got? That type of. But that I quickly, through my wilderness meditation, was like, that's not what you're looking for. You're looking for just the opportunity to do the work that you love to do. And it's up to you. I've told myself it's up to you to find it and to do it. And so I would do, I love doing theater. If you want to be an actor, act. Find ways to act. And then also, there's a whole once I started learning about a technique through an acting class, because I think that undergraduate programs are great, and they teach you a lot of the fundamentals and basics of theater acting, especially. But I think there's some fine tuning you can do to your craft. I think once I started doing that, and you learn how to, you know, really break down character. I also went through the groundlings where you learn how to write. Two of the groundlings levels are writing levels. Um, that was another way for me to be creative and be a storyteller. And when you're an actor, you're a storyteller. You're part of the storytelling kind of machine.
Yeah.
Um, Editors are storytellers, actors are storytellers, the writers are storytellers, the directors are storytellers, creative producers are storytellers. And so uh, I, I I'm just a storyteller. So if I can do it in any of those ways, I'm also getting some sort of gratification. So started writing, and for me as a writer, I don't have to be published and have millions of people read anything that I write, whether it's a script, a book, or whatever it is. Uh, as long as I have some people read it and they say it was pretty good or even needed work, I'm happy. Because and that gave me a creative outlet. And then once um, it started being easier to film things, you can film things with iPhones. You've got DSLR cameras. God, it's so hard to say that fast. When you've got these tools, now you can create and make your own stories, and you've got a place to distribute them on YouTube or Vimeo.
Yeah.
Um, you can tell a story at any point, and so that's why I don't really have that kind of self-doubt or anxiety anymore. Only because, and I think that helped me always stay in a positive place mentally. And there's a part of this job, this game, this lifestyle that we've chosen that, yeah, your skill, your talent, and what you look like plays a big part in whether or not you're going to get a job if people want to hire you. But also, who are you? What kind of energy do you put off? Because a lot of times with these, say, a television show that might go 3 to 8 to 10 seasons, you're you're looking for people that you want to work with for that long, that you want to spend 12 to 14 hours a day with for that
Yeah.
long, for that many years, right? So what kind of energy do you bring? Do you bring a positive energy, a negative energy? What does the room do when you walk onto the set? Does the air get sucked out of the room, or is there suddenly some sort of kind of magnetic energy? And so I think for me, because I'm happy enough, like sitting at home and writing something and reading it and just laughing at it myself. Whether or not anybody ever reads it or not, I'm being creative, and I think I just when I walk into a room, I just feel good about the fact that I'm just here and I'm doing this. And I had an audition. You know, I worked on a play that my friend wrote that was in a small theater, but it was great and everybody laughed and I didn't get paid a cent, but I don't care. It was I did something for a friend. Uh, Bringing that kind of energy to work, to your workplace, is infectious, and so I think it's another reason why I think I've had some good jobs is because it's there's also an energy people want to work with. I'm that way. Like now that I'm a producer and a creative and a director, like I'm looking for that energy all the time. I don't want to
Yeah.
work with a butthole. I want to work with someone who's gonna like you know, make everybody feel good when they walk on the set.
Isn't it so fun when you can make people laugh in a good way?
Absolutely.
I
I
feel
think
like
that,
that's, I'm, because my husband and I, our first year of marriage, he really convinced me to do community theater with him one play. It was the first play in my entire life. And I said, No, I don't want to do that. I'm too scared. And he said, No, please try it with me. So I auditioned for it and got to do it. And the character I played was someone who made people laugh. And I forgot about everything else in my life, and I got to be that person for an hour and a half, and I would hear people laughing,
hmm
and I would just think to myself, oh my gosh, like just to hear people laugh with a ringing in their voice, like they were just genuinely happy. I
yeah.
just thought that was, I don't
Well, I
know,
think
it's
that's why a lot of
special.
people do this. A lot of people do this was because the emotional effect that you have on an audience is something that I think enlightens you, right, as an actor. It inspires you. Um, you know, I think actors we study people. um we if you want to portray people, you've got to study people, right? And so understanding emotionally why people do things, to include laughing at jokes, laughing at situations, crying, getting angry, whatever it is. So I think when you're on stage and you hear that laughter, or you hear people shifting in their seats because they're uncomfortable, or you hear people groaning because they're angry because you're playing the villain. Um, that's you have a direct response from the people that you're trying to affect with the storytelling that you're doing, right? And that's fuel, I think, for an actor and for anybody if they get an opportunity. They've never acted before, even like they get an opportunity to do that and affect people. I mean, ultimately, I think that's what we want to do as humans, right? We do want to um, affect people, hopefully in a positive way, in some sort of positive way. If you want to affect people in a negative way, you might be a sociopath. But like, hopefully, most people want to affect people in a positive way. And I think that, actors just take it a step further and say, this is what I want to do for a job. This is what want to do with my life.
Yeah.
That's another thing that I say is like, being an actor, choosing to be a professional actor, not necessarily a job. I thought it was at the beginning, but it's a life. You choose a life, and then your life's work is to uh, affect people, to either inspire them to laugh, cry, get angry, uh, smile, whatever it is. And that's it's a 24-hour kind of job for us, or experience for us, because some of my acting classes were at nighttime. I didn't have like that 9 to 5, but I was up at 6 o'clock in the morning in the gym, because if I am going to be on camera, you know, I had to think about what do I look like? Who am I? And who are they going to see me as? So I wanted to be, fit or whatever. So 6 o'clock in the morning working out, but I'm also 10:30 at night, I'm driving home from class. That's a big portion of your life going to just becoming the actor you can be.
Yeah.
Um, and then when you get, say, on a you're touring with a theater company and you're working, sometimes you have to help with the set. Sometimes, and then, the play is not over till 10 o'clock. You're not getting home until maybe 11:30 or 12 because you haven't even eaten dinner yet because you got to the theater at 4 o'clock and couldn't eat dinner, right? So it's a life and it's but it's an interesting life. Um, I guess I'm a vagabond, which I like.
Do you think there's something what makes a good story? Because there's a lot of stories, and it was interesting. I once was talking to someone and they told me, not all stories are worth hearing. And at first I thought that was a little harsh, but then I started thinking about it, and as I've lived life, I have watched or read some stories that I was like, either it just wasn't done right or it just wasn't. I felt nothing. Like the story ended, and I was kind of like, don't connect to anything here. There's no reality to this. There's not even a single thing that I can find that makes me connect. And I need to understand this person to some level in order to be present with the character. And I wanted to ask you, like, do you think that all stories are good stories, or is there something that makes a story good?
I definitely don't think all stories are good stories. I think a great story is going to be a story where everyone can find themselves in some place in the story. Um, you know, I think that's a great story. I think there are a lot of good and really good stories. Um, it just depends on the medium that the story is trying to be told in, right? If a movie is supposed to be for, uh, at this point, millions of people. And it's supposed to entertain millions of people and have people walk away from it with, either having answered questions or they have questions, but millions of people are supposed to be affected. A play is, it hopefully finds a large audience as well. But, there are stories that you might tell just to your family. Um, and that story could be, um, it should be personal and great for you and to you, and hopefully because your family is connected to you in a special way, they connect to it because it's
Yeah.
your story, right? But I think there's always a better way to tell a story, to set things up and then to drop the punchline or drop the story point, the heavy story point if it's a dramatic story. I think there's a way to tell the story, and not everyone's a great storyteller naturally or by instinct. There are some people who are great storytellers by instinct, but everyone can learn. I think everyone can learn how to tell a story, and I think that's what I would say one of the groundlings for me. Uh, um, I remember my first groundlings class, the beginning level, which is level one. In that class, I thought everybody was going to be an actor, but there was like doctors in there. There were businessmen and women in there, like because people were going through it to figure out how to be more comfortable in who they are and talking in front of people and presenting themselves and a lot of people's jobs, like even if it's not a story, you would not think it as a storytelling job. Um, but when a doctor operates on someone and either it was a success or it wasn't a success, he's got to leave that operating room. He's got to go tell the family a story about what happened in there, right?
Yeah.
And there's an effective way to do that. And so the Groundlings, I think, was you know made it super simple. There's big technical creative writing programs at universities and the master's programs and the undergrad programs, but um, and they're learn how to read and write literature, but uh, there's a simple way of telling a story, a beginning, middle, and end, right? And knowing that there are big story points that are going to be in a story. It could be one big story point, it could be two, three, four, whatever it is. And I think, that we all are capable of learning how to tell a great story. No matter how big the audience is going to be. You tell a great story to your husband. I hope that after this podcast interview, you go tell your husband the story of I interviewed Jon Huertas, and you set it up like a beginning, middle, and end, and all these big story points. And
Yeah,
he told me the brain is the most important organ. And maybe that
uh,
happens. Who knows?
yeah, no, that's true. And then he's gonna say, well, no.
He's gonna
I'm a
say now.
very
He's gonna say now we got to do another play, and you're gonna be in it.
yeah. He's also gonna say, well, honey, you need to work on your brain part because I listen to my heart too much, which causes me trouble. Um, but I was gonna say, um, is there a character you've played that you think you're most proud of? Like that you hit on the nail, that you're like, that is the most human character I've ever done.
I mean, I think my character, Tony Aspera in Generation Kill, the HBO series I did, um,
Yeah.
it's the one I think that I have the most pride in, and I think the character was closely aligned with me, and it was also he's a real person. I played a real person. I met that person, and the biggest compliment I ever got in my life as an actor came from that person's significant other. Uh,
Mm.
at the premiere, we premiered. It's about um, the Recon Marines of First Battalion, and we went and premiered it in San Diego for them. And at Camp Pendleton. And his significant other came up to me after she watched, I think they showed 3 episodes. And she came up to me and she was like, how did you, like, you're him. Like, how did you do that? Because I never met him personally. I'd talked to him on the phone, but
Mm.
I'd never met him in person. And I thought, wow, if she thinks that way and feels that way, then I've done my job uh, effectively. And it felt good because you never know. You go and you do something, you put it out there, and the editors edit it, the director does their cut, maybe the studio's got final cut if it's a TV show, maybe the network studio, whatever. So you never know what people are going to see after the work that you've done, and you don't know how people are going to receive it. And you just kind of hope. And sometimes you never get an answer. Yeah, you got people that watch the show and they like it, but I don't like to read on social media what people say about my performances necessarily or my character. Uh, but in this moment, when you got the guy you're playing, who you respect, who you want to uphold the integrity of what he did uh, during this part of his life and in this story, to have a significant other say you nailed it was the biggest compliment you could ever get as a storyteller telling a true story.
Yeah. No, I can imagine. I mean, that is. I'd also think that might be relieving too, because I would feel like, isn't there pressure if you're playing someone who's alive?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably more pressure on yourself. You probably put more pressure on yourself than, some people. I'm sure that some actors don't care how they. I mean, there were a couple of actors because our military advisor was being portrayed in the show by an actor. Our two of our military advisors were being played by actors on the show. They were standing on set while someone's pretending to be them. Uh, I That's where I think there would be like major pressure from, and I would also, if I was an actor and that guy, and if I was playing the guy, if my guy would have been a military advisor on the show, I would have been up his butt the whole time. I would have been just following him around. He would woke up in the morning. I'm just beside his bed staring at him. How does he wake up? Oh, that's how he wakes up. Okay, that's how I'm gonna do it. Uh, you know,
Yeah.
Creepy as hell, but I would have been there. So I think that would be more pressure than I mean, yes, there was pressure, and also I didn't even realize that we were gonna premiere it in front of him and people that we portrayed in the actual Marine Corps. That was just a was a nerve-wracking surprise, I guess.
Well,
You
that
didn't know how the
helps that you didn't
yeah.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, but like when we once we did find out that, oh yeah, we're going to premiere it at the base and you guys are going to be there, there was a little bit of like, what, anxiety. You don't know how these guys are going to react after they watch this thing, and it was a great reaction, to say the least.
Yeah. No, and I think that's such a compliment also from people who've, gone through a lot of hardship and if they can see you and they go, "Yeah, you did a good job, then you did it well." Um, I want to ask you, interestingly, you've talked a lot about how an actor kind of has to find out who they are and has this grounding about who they are as a person, and then acting becomes their life, but at the same time, you want to bring meaning to the world for what you do. Hopefully, like you said, most people do want to do something meaningful. Do you, um, like if someone was to ask you like who you are, how do you think you'd answer if someone was like, how do you bring meaning into the world? Who are you as a person? If you kind of had to set the scene for someone to describe yourself, what do you think you'd say?
I don't know. That's a tough question. I guess for me, I don't know that I can wrap my head around that, because what I feel about myself and just humans in general is that we are one of the tiniest creatures with respect to how big the universe is. And so who we are and our importance is like moot, if you will. My importance is moot. Like I, what I do is, I wake up every day and I just know that I'm not going to be mean to anyone. I'm going to try not to be mean to anybody. I'm going to try to be nice to the people I love. I'm going to try to be helpful when people ask. And when I do my job, I'm going to try to do it well, because I know that what we do is provide people an escape from their real life
Yeah.
uh, and everything they're going through, right? So I know that I'm contributing in that way, but I don't make it a driving force in why I do what I do. Um, because I do what I do uh, for myself. It gives me I love studying people and understanding it almost from like an anthropological kind of standpoint. I think if in my other life I would have been an anthropologist, because I like understanding you know why humans do the things they do, how and over time how it's changed, um and studying, like, humans, we think we're really a lot more important than I think we really are. The animal kingdom. In fact, the other day I was I'll tell you a quick little anecdote, quick little story. I was having dinner at a restaurant, my wife, and this restaurant had some really cool lights. In fact, I'm going to order them for my new house. But they were there were these monkeys, and they're like holding on to the wall. They're made out of metal, and they're holding like the cord to a light bulb. So it's like a monkey
Oh,
light,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
It was mad cool. But that I've always loved primates. I think the primates, and especially like say chimpanzees, because I know we're so closely related to them with our DNA, that we evolved from the same common ancestor. That stuff fascinates me. I love it. I love primates. And then I was looking at these lights, and I looked down at one of the tables, and there was a guy sitting there by himself, and he's obviously a wine and food, like uh he's a foodie, right? He loves wine, to where he's like, he's checking the nose on the wine just over and over, and he's smelling it. I see him thinking about the notes that he's getting from the nose of this wine, and then he's sipping it and tasting it and like swishing around his mouth, and he's like, yeah, yeah, uh, a leather belt, a bark from a tree, whatever. And he's doing all that, and then he's tasting the food with it, and I could tell he's like analyzing his meal and his wine, like that's his thing. Could be his job. I don't know. But he's like, it was a thing. There was so much etiquette to everything he was doing. And then I'm looking around, I look at my table and I see a fork and a knife and I see the plate, and I'm like, like imagine what those monkeys or chimpanzee. I'm trying to imagine what they think if and when they ever see us that are close related to them doing all this stuff with like a napkin and folding it and a knife and a fork. A chimpanzee picks out something and just are biting on it, right?
Hmm.
Um, so that's what I'm like trying to get at is that we have this self-importance to our existence that I try not to have, I guess. And so, you know, if I don't, I guess I don't try to contribute anything. I don't try to think about contributing anything uh to the world of importance. Like I just want to be nice to people. Really. I want to be nice to people. I know and I want to have a great time while I'm here. I know I only have about, 80 years on the planet. We have such a short lifespan compared to the age of the universe and how much longer it's going to be here, our planet in general too. So I'm going to be nice to people and be happy with what I do and the people I have around me. Cut out the negative stuff, cut out negative people, cut out negative, um, and just be like, be around nice people, be around cool people, giving people, people that make me smile and that I can make smile. And that's my contribution to I think the world. It has nothing to do with my job. It's just my job is my job. Um, that's for me, pretty much.
So
That was a
basically, you
long, that was a long-winded, ridiculous answer. I'm sorry about that.
no, it's not at all. I was gonna say it boils down to though you just want to exist,
Yeah,
right? Be.
yeah, exactly. And I think that's what keeps maybe going back to some other things that you said earlier. That's what keeps me free of anxiety or especially surrounding um my job or whether or not how I feel about my career or anything. Like I just want to exist and be happy. And I know that I could be happy pretty much doing anything. Like I said, my guidance counselor told me, what do you want to end up flipping burgers? Maybe. I'd be happy doing it. Like I'd be fed, that's for sure. I'd slip a burger every once in a while, you know what I'm saying? Might not
Well,
be
you
paid
probably
for.
would learn to make really good burgers.
I would learn how to make a really good burger.
So
I think I already
that's
do.
I think
They probably
that's a
come
really positive.
they probably come and scold me and say, stick to the recipe.
You
Be
know,
experimenting.
yeah. No, and it was interesting when you told me that because I do think, the other day I was sitting down with friends of ours, and this little girl was sitting there, and she is really good at braiding hair. She's really good at it, and she's only like, 9 or whatever. And
Right.
I said to her, you should really, there's a friend of mine, who may be getting married soon. You should tell her, say, hey, I can do hair. Can I like practice? Can I do your hair? And then someone next to me looked at me and said, don't tell her that. She's not going to be able to do that. They're not going to say yes, and she's just going to get disappointed. And he said you want life to be you want to be real with them. And I was like, well, but also you want to try. Why can't she
Right.
try? Like is she has
Exactly.
this gift, and yeah, maybe the person's gonna say no, but also don't you want her to know she could try if she wanted to? And I think that kind of going back to what you said about your guidance counselor, I am kind of sad because there is a realism. You do have to be real with people on some things, right? Because some people could be
Absolutely.
way too much on the other end where it's like they could just conquer the world and you're like, okay, wait a minute, you have some responsibilities you need to think about. But I do wish that we were more encouraging in a sense of encouragement that is realistic. Just saying, well, why don't you try it and see if it happens? You know?
Well, I think, if you think about the most successful people on the planet, nobody got success without risk. And that's
Yeah.
the thing is that her to ask someone if she could braid their hair is taking a risk. They might say no. but that's okay. That's their prerogative to say no. You just ask someone else. And
Right.
eventually
Yeah.
someone will say yes, and that's success, right? Um, so I mean, like I said earlier, like I was living in Winchester, Virginia, like, and I wanted to be an actor. Before that, I was living in the hood, like, I wanted to be an actor, and a lot of people in my life told me that it was impossible. What are you talking about? I even when I was in the Air Force and studying theater, and they were coming to see my plays that I would be in, and still when I would say, "Yeah, I'm getting out and I'm going to go be an actor," people were poo-pooing on me. So I was getting no's before I was even asking anybody for a job yet, really. Um,
And then you're
but
like,
then,
I'm gonna get into the silence thing. I don't want to
right,
listen to
exactly.
people anymore.
But then I got an opportunity to meet Woody Harrelson when I was still in the Air Force,
Oh wow.
and someone introduced me to him and said he's an actor like you, and I denied it. I said no, no, I'm not an actor like that's crazy. You're amazing. You're Woody Harrelson. I'm not an actor like you. And he said, "What are you talking about? Are you an actor or not?" And I said, "Yeah. I mean, I do theater and stuff like that." He goes, "Well, then you're an actor because if an asshole like me can do it, you can do it." And that's basically been my mantra ever since. Um, you know, Anybody can do anything for the most part if they try. Uh, yes, there are going to be some limitations in certain aspects. Not everybody's going to be a professional football player. Um, but I've seen some professional football players that were, that you would have never thought when you were in like, when we're learning sports, what sport we love, like in, you know, middle school, high school, and you're the smallest guy on the team, but you're really fast. You got a lot of heart. Most people would say he'll never play college football or professional football or professional basketball or whatever it is, right? And
Yeah.
then you see them at, 5'10", running a 4-3, playing defensive back for, the Washington Commanders, uh, just to, stay close to home for you. But then you see them playing, and you're like, oh my God, he did it. And that's exactly what I think most likely happened to all the people when I said I'm going to be an actor. They were like, "You're the kid who lives on that street who lives with his grandparent." Like, no, you're not going to be an actor. An actor is that kind of person. But all of us have it in us to try anything. And I think for me, I've decided that I'm going to try everything I'm interested in uh, once and see if I like it and see if I'm any good at it. And if it's something that inspires me and I have passion, I'll keep doing it. Like there's certain things I love to I play. I like riding. I love horses. That's why I have a ranch, right? But nobody. I didn't traditionally grow up. I wouldn't grow up on a horse ranch. I didn't have horses or anything like that. But now I do, and a lot of people told me, "Oh, horses are a lot of work, dude. You got horses. You don't. You haven't grown up with horses. What are you talking about? Like, so you learn how to adapt. Like you learn about it. Like, and now there's YouTube University. You can learn anything. You can get a degree in
Yeah.
anything now.
Well, I think that's like you said, I mean, I think that's one thing that's really cruel about the world is there's um even with guys, the fact that more girls are attracted to tall guys, and if they're short, then they don't really think that they're, really to give them a second look. And I mean, maybe I'm biased because my husband is a shorter guy, but it's been yeah, but it's been sad to me because like he even told me in his life, like, 'cause he played basketball for quite some time and was thinking about doing it for college. And he said he always had to fight hard because people just
Yeah.
didn't think because he was short, you know? And he would say, but he made his email heart over height because he's like, but how
Oh,
about,
nice.
yeah, I know. But it was like, and it's sad to me because I've met so many guys who, maybe they do more things that you would stereotypically say are girly, though I don't really understand that. And then it's like, oh, you're not as much a man because you're like that, or you're too short, or you don't have this, you don't have that.
Well, I
And
used to be a short guy too, so I
yeah,
relate
it's
to your
it's
husband.
but it's a
I
cruel,
didn't.
it's
Yeah,
cruel. I don't
yeah. I
think
didn't
it's
grow until I was older. I think I was in my high school. I was forced to be with the shortest girl in class too. Like we were kind of like pushed together.
I'm sorry.
always trying to do that. It was fine. I mean, she was cool, but uh, but also, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's funny how people like the whole man thing that you brought up, like I know that, and there's a big kind of a movement that's been happening, this whole masculine thing and alpha thing, over the past few years. And I know it happens a lot on social media. I've heard of it, but like, yeah, man, like I think men should be able to do uh whatever they want, whatever makes them feel good. Women should be able to do whatever makes them feel good. If they like, if they're interested in something, try it. I always wanted a sewing machine since I was in high school. And I
Do you
remember
sew?
I can, yeah, I have a sewing machine.
That
The
that's
reason I never got
cool.
a sewing machine when I was a kid, when I was in high school, 'cause I would have liked to do it back. I used to like make my own costumes, made my own Halloween costumes.
Wow.
Uh, I liked all that stuff. I mean, I would have been, I when I was a younger guy, I probably would have been a cosplayer, um, of some sort. But because I also like medieval times and things like that. But I would have made my own stuff if I had a sewing, like a lot more of my own stuff if I had a sewing machine. We didn't have money for sewing machines. Like I could never afford a sewing machine.
Mm.
And so cut to like, I think it was when I was on Castle. I was like, you know what? Our show's doing pretty good. I got some money in the bank. And Amazon just got hot. I was like, I'm buying a sewing machine. I got it. And I made a costume.
What was the
And
costume?
so I did a thing, I did a proof of concept from Marvel. I pitched a show to Marvel TV and you can just find it on Vimeo actually, but I did a proof of concept for the White Tiger, Marvel superhero,
Wow.
the first Latino Marvel superhero. So that they had made, created. It was in the 70s. They made this guy, Hector Ayala, who was the White Tiger. So I basically hired someone to make the costume. They made it so that it didn't fit me uh, after measuring me and all stuff. So I picked it up from them, and I was going to be shooting in like 3 days, and I did a fitting, and it wouldn't fit, it wouldn't move. So I had to take the whole thing apart. And luckily, I had my sewing machine, but I had never used it. And I went on YouTube University and learned how to like work the sewing machine. And I spent a day taking the whole thing apart, putting it back together, and it worked great. It worked perfect. So,
And you still
um,
sew?
yeah, yeah. I still
That
make some
is really,
costumes
I
because
think you're the
and
first guy I've met who's done that.
yeah, and I wish some dude would come at me and tell me that I'm not a man because I sew. I wish, because then we'll talk about it.
I don't know what would happen to him at the end.
I sew his mouth shut. That's what happened.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Well, John, it's been such a gift to talk with you, and I mean, I love the TV shows you've done, so I'm hoping
Well,
we
thank you
get
for
to see
watching.
more of your stuff. Yeah.
Well, I set up a show at NBC that we're waiting for a green light for. It would be my first time being the star of the show.
Okay.
It's called Fire with Fire right now. Hopefully the title sticks. We'll see if they want to change it or not. But it's a really cool show, a police show. It's not really, I wouldn't even call it a procedural. It's more of a there's a an ongoing story through the show. So it's serialized. But we'll see. We'll see if it goes. We're early stages. Just turned in our second draft of our script to the network NBC, and we'll see what happens. Maybe
Okay.
it'll be on next year, next fall. Other
That'd
than
be
that,
great.
I'm into the directing thing, and there are some films that we are producing in my company, and partner with a couple others that I'm either directing and or acting in. So, but
Well, you
I've
have to
been
put a sewing machine scene in it.
I should, huh? I should put a sewing machine
Yeah, and say something
in
about
there.
man in the sewing machine. There's power in that.
I could do that's it could be a really funny moment, but also poignant.
Yes. All right, John. Well, thank you so much. I hope you have a good day.
Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, and good luck with the rest of your season of this podcast.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye bye.